Hi everyone. I would like to welcome you to Ananke's Women in Literature Festival 2024. I'm Namrata, the festival coordinator, and with us we have Sabin Muzaffar, the festival director. Together, we would like to welcome you to celebrate inclusion and diversity through the voices of Global South in our fourth edition. So, Sabine, can you share a bit about the inspiration behind the theme of this year, language and erasure?
Thank you so much, Namrata, for the introduction. And yeah, absolutely. Um, so, for the past 6 to 8 months, and even more, I've been really focused on the kind of messaging and the kind of language that we see, not just on social media, but traditional media as well, and how it is used to wield power, propagate different agendas. That is one of the triggering things that led me to, ponder about language as a tool of power, hegemonic power, and a tool of coloniality. It is very political, as well as it being politicized as well. So that was basically, the starting point. And of course, the kind of messaging, the kind of politicization that is happening all across the world, not just in one region, but all across the world. And we, the people from the global south, how they are oppressed and isolated and alienated because of that. And that is how I felt erasure you know starts, it begins. So that basically, in a nutshell, that was the thought behind this theme. And
That's
I would ask the same of you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting, Sabine, because I'm sure everybody knows the current scenario across the world. Everybody must have seen, including you in news, what is happening in India and other countries as well. When you see, architecture being erased, when you actually see history being rewritten to form a narrative which suits some specific people or some specific agenda, and not the positive way. You are expecting children to learn or unlearn what we have seen or we have grown up seeing. It is very imperative that we talk about it, we address that, and we understand the seriousness, the gravity of this entire situation, where everything is just alarming, if that's the word that I could use. Everywhere they are either breaking down history, breaking down monuments which are of historical, of historical times, changing the stories and adding versions which, if you actually look at it in psychological terms, this fits the definition of gaslighting. Because that's, they try to, the gaslighting is what happens when they try to change your belief, or your truth. They try to challenge and make you believe that what you are saying is not what it is. And so this collective gaslighting that we all are seeing right now across the globe is just too terrifying. And this conversation is very important. If you actually see all the topics that we have, the panelists who have joined us, ranging from writers, historians, and everybody who's sharing, they all are sharing their collective thoughts on this gaslighting, on this fear, on these thoughts, this hate mongering which is happening. And how, it's no longer about a specific gender, or it is no longer restricted to a specific country or a city or a state. It's actually a crisis that the whole world is grappling with in different ways, and this is the time we need to come together to talk about it. And so, Sabine, this is where I would like to understand that, shaping our perceptions of reality from the answers that are there. So how do you think that, our discussions would actually add to that conversations, to those flows, what we are doing?
So, you know, again, social media, it is so, um, it's so vitriolic, and the kind of messaging that there is. First of all, we need to have continuous conversations, dialogue, in a safe space. Building a safe space, first of all, is very important. And you build that space collectively, um, not just by with like-minded individuals, but others as well. Diversity is really important. Uh, Other schools of thought, perceptions, that's really important. Building that space, where you can have these conversations, that's the first step. Then how do these conversations matter? In a world, we may be doing very little, but that very little counts, because if you change the perception of even one person, it can, that's how I see it. And I've seen it with the work that we've done through Ananke, through our fellowship programs. um, it's important. If you change one person's perception, or even make them think, there is hope. And you need that hope. So and a continuous conversation is important, because if we start thinking that nothing's going to happen, with you know if I'm the only one. Let's see in this way. If it's not me, then who? That should be how everyone should look at it. I was talking to somebody very close, and they were saying, you know um, do the work that you're doing, do it, and do it within your network, which is fine. I agree. You create a ripple effect. You cannot do something which is out of your reach. It's difficult. I agree with that. um, but they also said, because the status quo would remain the same, we're like sheep. And I told that person that, if I'm a sheep, I'd rather be a black sheep. So, yeah. So I think conversations are important. If they change the narrative or a perception of even one person, that's really important. With, so many conflicts happening, starting with Palestine, in Sudan, in Afghanistan, in Iran, there, so many countries. So across the global south, especially, so I think we cannot let go of this continuity, because we have to counter the propaganda that challenges these colonial powers, these imperialists, or these people or individuals or stakeholders or whatever, what they are propagating. So we need a better world. We need the world to heal. So let's keep the conversation going. I would ask the same, uh, Namrata.
So, the way I look at it is, I would go to the the oldest proverb that we were taught as children was that pen is mightier than the sword, and we are all writers, we are all thinkers. So you know what, we have that collective responsibility of actually trying to ignite conversations, trying to put that seed of thought. So, I recently attended a session where somebody said that a tweet's shelf life is a few seconds. Okay, a movie's shelf life is maybe a few months, but a book is you cannot have a shelf life. It can actually be for years and years, and you don't know that one book can change generations to generations. So it was about how we were entering the publishing industry, and that person was like, you need to understand the immense responsibility that comes to you, that you will be able to change so much with that one thing, that one book, or that one thought that you're putting out. And that's exactly how I look at these conversations that we are having. I have interacted with the guests that we have got together here. I have seen your discussions with them. I have seen their thoughts and the thoughts that they bring along here. It's important that we put that seed. in be it inclusive publishing, be it, giving space to diverse platforms for writers across minorities, across languages, where they are able to share their stories, share their lived experiences for all of us to understand these places, this panels, these festivals, and these conversations are definitely important for them to carry on, because that is what we are giving behind, we are leaving behind for the next generation, for the world after us. This is what we could do, because language can actually wield immense power in the erosion of certain narratives and identities, and often through the manipulation of words, meanings, and representations. So when particular languages or dialects are marginalized or suppressed, entire cultures and histories can be silenced, which is actually a very scary thing that we are witnessing to an extent, as I already said before. And this leads to an erasure of diverse perspectives and experiences. So these linguistic biases, the stereotypes, this harmful narratives, this actually can marginalize certain identities, and this can reinforce social inequalities and exclusion. And this is not how we should be looking at a world, at least in 2024. This really sounds like the times of 1950s and 40s, when people were struggling for inclusion. This is high time we look for representation. Rather, I would say we look for accurate representation, not just some textbook representation where we have just one person, one voice, one there. We need to look at accurate representation, and we need to celebrate the stories and the voices they bring along. So Ananke plays a very important role therein by bringing all of them here. And of course, because technology has brought the world very closer, the best way to do it is to make it virtual, to ensure that everyone from all parts of the world can have access to this. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, if you could add more on that thought of how, the role of language in the erasure of narratives and identities highlights the need for some more spaces like this, be it in publishing, be it in stories, be it in art, be it in cinema, and the goal that we have to achieve with Ananke's Women in Literature Festival.
I think the only because you have very eloquently said, uh, you've been very eloquent about this, and I can just add that I hope this space sets an example uh, for everyone, all stakeholders, from the reader to the writer to the author, the creatives, publishing houses, everyone across the board, and beyond that, not just across the literary landscape. That if you do your work and do it not in silos, you do it collectively. Uh, I think magic happens. And Namrata, you've seen all all the partners as well. You've seen how proactive and excited everyone is, and the reason for that is that we have to give everyone the agency and the ownership for it to
Yeah.
organically become something magical. If it's not done in that way, it's in, if I'm talking about hegemony and power, and and I do not set an example, I as in we do not, as in Ananke or the festival or the this platform, um you know then uh, we're just being hypocritical, number one. And the long term impact, there won't be any long term impact because we're not walking the talk ourselves. So I think it's
True.
very important to build a space which is a collective in the real sense, where everyone has a voice, agency, autonomy,
Yeah.
um, and feel that ownership. So that's what I would say.
Very true. And that's the goal we want to achieve with Ananke's Women in Literature Festival. Today, for the first day, we have a very exciting list of panel discussions, of fireside chats, of readings, which includes a Palestinian architectural puzzle telling generational stories through design by Georgina Abod. We have a very interesting panel discussion on the pattern of public discourse featuring authors like Dr. Tanushri Ghosh, Muniba Mahmood, Nilanjana Bhomik, and Dr. Salma Siddiqui, which is moderated by Sridevi Nayak. We have a reading by Urvashi Butalia and Sumitra Mehrol. We have tribute to Palestine poets who have joined us and shared their readings, poetry readings with us as a tribute to Palestine. We have also got some very exciting Redomania authors having panels on women writing, crime thrillers, women voices in history, heritage, and conversation. We have an interesting fireside chat with author Kiran Mandral on her latest book, Rising 2.0. And we have the River in an Ocean Essays on Translation panel discussion led by Induzet Abbas from Trace Press. Lastly, we of course explore the poetry, the poetic side, featuring a panel discussion on poetry and the poetic voice by Rochelle Potkar, Abir Hawk, Abhishek Aninka, Manjari Indurkar, which is being moderated by Vinita Agarwal. So we look forward. Do stay tuned to watch all our sessions and hope you enjoy them. Thank you.
Thank you.